Hello there and welcome everyone. Thank you all for joining us today. In this webinar, we'll be going over creating simple parts and assemblies using SOLIDWORKS and 3DEXPERIENCE CATIA. My name is Cassandra Clark and I am a specialist out of the greater Seattle area. I have been working with and conducting training for CATIA V5 for nearly 10 years, but today I am excited to showcase using 3DEXPERIENCE CATIA. And also with me is Steve Darcy.
Hi guys, I got a mechanical engineering degree from UALR out of Little Rock, Arkansas. I'm with GoEngineer and based out of Austin, Texas. And for the most part, like anything robotics, running, computers, anything nerdy. For the most of you that know GoEngineer, pretty much we're really big on the SOLIDWORKS product and just starting to step our toes into the CATIA line. But if you're with CATI, then we have merged with that company and they've been doing it for years and years. So we've got a lot of good technical resources for that. But what else is GoEngineer? It's also 3D printing, plastic printing. We also do metal printing. We also do 3D scanning. And if you just go to our website, then you can pretty much see all the scanners and get all the information you need for a lot of the services, training, support, and anything that you really need. We have a really, really good YouTube channel as well, if you've ever been out there. So main point on that, go to our website. We also have about 200 plus technical, very nerdy resources out there. So if you do have questions, we have answers. So to start this off on the design software side, we carry SOLIDWORKS and CATIA for the mechanical engineering and modeling. For the simulation side, there's SOLIDWORKS Simulation, and then we carry the Simulia suite. On manufacturing, we have CAMWorks and then Delmia. And on PDM, SOLIDWORKS PDM has two flavors, standard professional, and then we have Innovia, and of course 3DEXPERIENCE on the PDM PLM side. I'm going to break this down. For the most part, we're just going to be dealing with the design software side. SOLIDWORKS really does have one flavor, desktop software, but then there's an add-in for SOLIDWORKS called SOLIDWORKS Connected. You can actually purchase it as connected, and it's connected to the 3DEXPERIENCE cloud. And so on the CATIA line, there's a CATIA V5, which is desktop software. And then we have 3DEXPERIENCE CATIA. So what we're going to be doing today is showing you SOLIDWORKS, and then Cassandra is going to be showing you 3DEXPERIENCE CATIA. It does have an installation on the local machine, so you still need a powerful, workstation, graphics card, and computer to run both of these softwares. All right, with that, I'm going to run into the SOLIDWORKS demo, and then once I'm done with that, then we'll switch it over to Cassandra. She'll do the 3DEXPERIENCE CATIA demo. It's supposed to be a little robotic gripper. It's got a little servo motor on the bottom of it. And so we're going to model up two of these parts real quick and then put an assembly together, do a quick little drawing, and then I'll hand it over to Cassandra. All right, so this is going to be the first part that I'm going to work on. And we are going to start from scratch. So we're not doing any sneaky stuff in the background. So if you're new to SOLIDWORKS, pretty much we have parts, assemblies, and drawings. Parts, you start off with a sketch, and then it turns you into sketch mode. You have your draw toolbars and modify toolbars, so you can create geometry. So if I need to make a rectangle, you can just draw that out. If I need another rectangle, then I can just change the rectangle type, draw a little rectangle. If I need a circle, we can just draw a circle. So we have a lot of tools for creating the geometry. If you want to modify it, if I need to trim or extend, then I can just go down through here and just trim out what I don't want. See, I didn't actually put any dimensions or anything on it, so put those in after the fact. And when I place the dimension and make it, in this case, 1 inch, then it's going to start sizing this, and you'll start to see some of the colors change. There we go, 0.74. You can kind of see that it's starting to change the shape of this thing. And black is good. Let's put some dimensions on here. And I want to make both of these equal. And I want to make sure both of these line up horizontal. And let's put a dimension between these two. And now if I make these two equal, should just move over in position. That looks much better. All right. This is the rail that the little handles are going to slide on. It's 3/8 of an inch, 0.375. It's not the radius, so let's divide that by 2. There we go. That looks much better. 375 was the diameter. Okay, looks good. Everything is black. That means we can go right into extruding. And I'm going to extrude this mid-plane just in case I want to decide to do a mirror later. And we're going to extrude this out 4.25. So pretty simple. If you've ever used a modeling software, this should be pretty rudimentary. But you should see a couple, hopefully I'll show you a couple of little tips and tricks on the way. So I'm going to do a new sketch on this face. I'm going to use this little tool right here. It's a right-click drag. So I'm going to go over to the circle command. And I can also just right-click and get the dimension command. So everything's right there at my fingertips. Make that 0.48. And we're just going to extrude cut. You can see it's fully defined. It's black. And we'll just go through all on that. I've got my hole for my center. That looks good. Next, I need a little pocket to put the servo motor and everything in. So we're going to sketch on the bottom face. And I'm going to just do 2 quick little rectangles. Go. I'm going to trim out the inside there and put some dimensions on it. Couple more dimensions. And this looks a little crazy, so I'm going to select on both of these entities and make them equal as well. And then I should only need 2 more dimensions, the height of this. Now that those are equal, both of them are going to change. And then I just need to position it based on the origin here. Again, black is good, we're good. We're going to do an extrude cut. I'm going to show you a little sneaky one here. And I will tell you that every feature that I have here on SOLIDWORKS, CATIA does have the same thing. Just a little bit different pick of the box and what the dialog boxes and stuff look like. All right, so I'm going to do an offset, and I'm going to offset this guy 0.15. So it's going to leave, right there is going to cut through. I'm going to flip that. So now I'm going to leave a little bit of some geometry in there. And then we're going to change this to blind, and my distance is going to be 0.61. All right, so I've got a little tiny pocket in there. Looks good. But now I need the bolt holes and everything for the servo. Rotate that around just a little bit. And I have a sketch that I use quite often, so I'm going to start a new sketch. And I'm going to go over to my library. And under my design library, I have a little servo mount block. It's just a 2D file. I'm just going to drag and drop it in there. And it can constrain just like a regular 2D entity, except it all acts like one. So you can kind of see it all goes about the same direction and everything. All right, with that, I'm going to drag that guy around. In fact, actually, it's going to go on this side. And then I'm going to make that horizontal. And it's just 3 profiles in there, so we can just do an extrude cut through all. And now I have the center of my servo ready, and it's got the bolt holes for the servo motor. Yeah, and that did it on the right side, so that's good. All right, it's hard to get the screwdriver in there, so a lot of times I need to create a little cutout. So we're going to do another sketch. And we're going to draw a little circle over here. If I hover there for a second, I can get the center point, drag that out, put a dimension on it. And you can see that the center of the servo is offset. So I want to give a little bit of clearance on the right-hand side of this. So I'm just going to draw a rectangle to cut this out. But I want to make sure that it's somewhat symmetric. So I'm going to go grab just a center line tool and go from the edge of this guy right here, the origin, and then the origin over to this guy. And then I'm just going to make these 2 lines equal. And so then that fully constrains that rectangular sketch there. All right, with that, we're just going to do an extrude cut. Here we're going to go up to surface. And now I've got a little bit bigger area there to put my servo motor. All right, with that, we're going to just make it look a little prettier. We're going to add some chamfers in here. I can pre-select before I go into the chamfer command, and 0.1 looks good. Let's go and add some big chamfers here. 8. Move a little bit of material. These are going to be 3D printed, so I'm going to sketch on that. And let's add 2 rectangles. This is kind of a sneaky way to do symmetry. I'm going to just add an equal relationship between these 2 lines. So if one gets bigger, smaller than the other one does as well. Put a quick dimension on it. And it's black, which means it's fully defined. So I'm ready to extrude cut. And we'll just go down blind or 9. That looks pretty good. Then we need a couple chamfers. I'll go right into the chamfer command. These are going to be a little bit smaller than that, of course. 106. Pick on a couple more edges. You can see it on the outside of the chamfer. It does a pretty good job of doing almost like the fillet command where it does tangency. And that's pretty much it. That looks good. I need this exact same thing on the other side. So I'm just going to select on the 2 features and the plane I want to do that about. And then we'll go to the mirror command. And that automatically puts them, if I pre-select it, it pretty much knows that you're going to do them about a plane. So looks good, pretty quick. All right, one more thing. The slider that I put on here, I need a little bit of a chamfer on here just to make sure that it doesn't eat up the plastic. This one's going to be a little bit smaller. And let's put one on the other side too. Probably should have done that first and then mirrored it, but it's all right. All right, so this is going to be my base part. I'm pretty much done with that, so let's save that. My part numbers are 22, so this is going to be my base feature. Save that. And we're going to model up one more part. We're going to model the slider that goes on top of that. And then the rest of the parts are pretty similar to being extrudes and things like that. So here we go. This one has a little bit different weird sketch to begin with. We just kind of sketch it out a little bit, getting it close. There we go. That's what it looks like. When I started this one, notice it's lined up with coincident with the origin. It looks like I did a good job on that one. Last time I missed that one, so this is good too. It's on that origin. And then we're ready to put some dimensions on. So make this guy 1 inch. And I'll just kind of go around from the top. This guy, if I pick, it is smart dimension, so if I pick 2 entities that are not parallel, then it knows what to do with them. Overall size, 1.4. Oop, it reversed a little bit. So I exited out of the dimension command and just drag it around to where you get it where you want. And then we'll go back into dimension command. Right here is 0.1. And then we have the height from the origin there is 0.25. All right, and then these 2 guys, I'm just going to select on them with the crossing. And we'll make them, whoop, there we go, make them parallel. Once they're parallel, then we can put a dimension on it and give it a thickness there. And everything is black. Black is good. I'm happy with that. And we're ready to extrude. So again, mid plane, just in case I want to do a mirror on one side, and we're just going to do 1 inch. That looks pretty good. I'm going to put a rib on the back of that just for some support. So I'm going to sketch on the front plane, the line. I could fill it in and do an extrude. And that's the thing, is there's no wrong way to model a part. There's maybe a faster way, but there's no wrong way. Cassandra and I are going to model it totally different, but we're going to get the same geometry when we're done. So I'm going to use the rib command. and give it a thickness and just say okay. So just a single line and I've got a rib. And with that, I'm ready to build the part that it's going to slide on. So I'm going to start sketching on this face. And that geometry is actually in this other part. So I'm going to tile vertically. Let's go back to this sketch over here. And I need this geometry right here. I'm going to pick all that, do Control C for copy. Just pick a place out here and do Control V. There it is. It didn't pull all of the dimensions over. And so I'm going to add a couple relationships and stuff in there because it's attached to other stuff. So I'm going to make these guys equal. I'm going to make the endpoint. So it's already got horizontal. So that one came through. So that's good. Let's go ahead and put a dimension for the overall size of that. Go. And then if I drag this guy, he should not move or anything. But I do need to position him where he needs to go. So let's just do a center line from the origin straight down. Put a dimension on it. And then I'll just position this guy and drop it over there. All right, now this is what it's sliding on. So I want a little bit of an offset off of this guy. So we're done with him. We'll go and exit out of that. He's happy now. And so I'm gonna, whoop, I got out of the sketch, sorry. Edit the sketch, all right. These guys are gonna be construction. And then I'm gonna do an offset of 0.01, so a little teeny tiny offset, 10 thousandths. Let's reverse it. This needs to slide on the outside of it. I'm happy with that. There's my little dimension for the offset. And then I don't want this going all the way down, so I'm going to drag this up just a little bit. In fact, we'll just make these two equal. That way I just have to dimension one. Dimension on it. Make it 0.1. And then that's it. Let's extrude. We're going to do a thin extrude. And this one I'm going to do up to vertex and pick a vertex. There we go. So I'm going in that direction till it hits that. Normal to the sketch. And I think that's it. Hit OK. The feature is 0.1 thick, so we're good on that. All right. I don't like these little sharp edges, so we're going to put little fillets in there. Looks good. And then we need the leg. Once these things are sliding, the servo motor is going to move these by a little leg down here. So I'm going to do a new sketch here. Let's go grab the rectangle command. And everything 3D pretty much, you can see, starts out 2D. So let's draw a circle. We'll draw a line. Make sure it's at the midpoint. That way it stays centered on there. We'll change this guy to construction. And then we'll put some dimensions on it. 1.25. Thickness of this guy is 0.34. And then I want to dimension this circle to the center of this axis going through the center of this guy. So we can turn that on. SOLIDWORKS, we call this a temporary axis. So you can see it there now. So now I can put a dimension here to there. And sometimes that's a little bit easier when you're doing something in an assembly because you know what the distances between something are. I don't have to worry about the offsets or anything like that. All right, also need to put the dimension for this guy for the hole size. And that's it, extrude. So 0.1, flip it around. This is not mid-plane, we're gonna do blind. Got my little leg there. If I 3D print that, this thing is not very stable, so I need to fill this area in. So I'm going to do a new sketch. I'm going to pre-select all the entities that I want to kind of steal. And I'm going to use convert entities. And then I just need to close off the shape. But it's got this little tail down here, so I need to trim that. And then now you can see it colors in anything that's kind of totally filled up. So I can use that as a feature to extrude. Go extrude it. There's a little trick. If it's on blind, if I double click on the face, it'll automatically do up to surface. So then I can just go right up to first surface and do that. Let's add a little bit more strength here. We're going to add a little tiny chamfer there. Get a little bit bigger than that. That's good. I'm going to turn off my my temporary axis so my friends don't make fun of me leaving the lights on, kind of thing. All right, I'm going to make this a little bit prettier looking. We'll add 2 fillets, a little bit bigger. And then the last thing I'm going to do is the part that I'm putting in here needs to do a snap fit. So I'm going to do a new sketch. I'm going to do a circle. I do need to steal the outside of this, so I'm going to convert that entity. And then we'll put a dimension on here, 3. And then we're just going to do a solid extrude. So it's going to be a little tiny piece of something. So we're going to do blind. Let's flip it. And this is going to be just a tiny thing, 0.05. So if you look at that, if we do a little section view, you can kind of see I've got a little ledge. So I'm going to snap fit the little part in there, but I need some chamfers on there to kind of help guide the snap fit. So let's put 2 chamfers on. And these are going to be tiny, 20 thousandths. All right, and that's pretty much it. So let's save this guy out. This is going to be my slider. Slider. And I'm going to go back to the base part, and we're going to put this guy into an assembly. There he is. He's inserted in SOLIDWORks. It puts him at the origin of the part. So the origin of the part and the assembly have the same thing. Let's go ahead and save this. Type that in there, top level assembly. All right, and then I need some more parts. Let's insert the slider in. Go. Rotate him around a little bit, line him up. Do concentric. Make these 2 parallel. So now he slides up and down there. And I need a right-handed part. So if this is the left-hand side, I need a mirrored part of this guy. So we can do that. We can do a mirrored part. So the plane, I'm going to select, it's actually just going to be the plane on the slider. That's good. The component is going to be the slider itself. And then we have different ways in which we can mirror that. So you can see it flip. But in this case, I want a right-hand part. Now, when it does that, it has to be a different component. So if I hit next, you can notice it's going to create a new file. I'm going to put a little 22 on it. It's going to be a 22 mirror slider. And then if you wanted surface bodies and things like that, we can say okay to that. All right. So, but now what happens is notice that the mirror goes across itself. So what I'm going to do is dissolve the mirror component. I don't want it to create any mates. It would create a mate between the 2 faces there because I want to mate this there. And I'll do the same thing. We'll do parallel. And so now this guy can travel a little bit separately than that. Okay, I need some more components though. So let's go to the library, and I have just a Windows directory out here that I'm just dragging and dropping in. So if I go put my server motor in here, and then right click and drag in SOLIDWORks, it'll rotate the component around so you can kind of get it close to where you want it. So I'm going to get that cylindrical face and that cylindrical face. We'll make those axially aligned. And then I'll do kind of the same thing. I'll pick on that face and this face, and we'll axially align those. And then I just need to put this face flat up against that face, and that fully defines the servo motor there. These little prongs, you'll see this in Cassandra's model also. Those are the wires that are going to be going out. We're not going to worry about those yet. This is mechanical. All right, I need a couple more components. I need the 03 component. Go, drag that around a little bit. And that concentric with that face. Some of these are a little hard to pick, so you can do a tab to hide. So now I can pick on that face. and pick through that part, pick on that face, make that coincident. So it's going to flush down there. There's a little screw that goes in there and holds that thing together. And I'm going to leave this open to where he can kind of rotate around a little bit. So that's pretty good. With that, we need some other parts. So let's get the legs. So just drag and drop it in. We'll line those up concentric. Face to face. This one actually goes to the bottom. Need another one of those, so I'm just going to hold control and drag. Make that concentric. We're almost done. This is like watching somebody work. I'm sorry. We're getting close though. All right, and with that on there, the servo motors, I don't know if you guys know this, but most servo motors pretty much only go about 180 degrees. Some of them can vary from time to time. Let's go and turn on, I'm gonna shift tab so you can see the little slider. And as this thing rotates, now we can start to clamshell this thing together. All right, now that I've got all my components, let's go ahead and save that. We'll do a quick drawing. Let's use the GoEngineer B size template. Drag, let's start with the right side view. And we'll put some views on here, a little isometric. The scale's a little off, so let's make that a little bit bigger. Better, make that guy shaded mode. Put a bill of material in here. And we'll put some balloons. I'm sorry, auto balloon. There we go. Now the servo motor, I can't really see it, so I'm going to add the balloon for the servo motor on this view right there. Pretty good. All right, so hopefully you saw some good tips and techniques. We're going to stop it right here, and we're going to switch over to Cassandra, and she's going to do pretty much the same thing in CATIA, only different. Let's switch it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Darcy. So yes, let's jump right into 3DEXPERIENCE CATIA. So I have a few tabs loaded, some pre-made parts, so we can import those later since, just like Darcy, I'm only going to do actually one part. So here in this working tab, so we have a new part, and this one, the gripper, the slider. And here, from that menu, CATIA, since this is 3DEXPERIENCE, it's on the cloud, it's going to save it automatically. So you can change those like timers on how frequently it auto saves. And then on the left-hand side here is our specification tree. So there's where we see like our planes, and down at the bottom are different tools and different functions here. So let's get started right on the XY plane. So this one, if you have experience or if you've worked with V5, there was no context bar. So that's a super nifty thing here with 3DEXPERIENCE. We can just click on that and activate our profile tool. Let's see. And just like Darcy mentioned, same part, but we're just going to model slightly different just to showcase. I mean, you still get the same part at the end. And here I'm entering the values in this tools palette that pops up with our profile tool. And what I didn't know from SOLIDWORKS was that I didn't know SOLIDWORKS was green for fully constrained. In CATIA, it is, or black is fully constrained in SOLIDWORKS, but for CATIA, it's green. So here, let me reselect those. So to get this fully constrained, we'll just add a coincidence here. We said 25. Control clicking the elements to, grab that angle. And then this last piece, our constraint, and this one was 6. So mine's in millimeters, so very similar parts. And this one, we'll just do the thick command. and we can select either down here at the bottom. In CATIA, it's pad, that's what the extrude is. So, or we can grab it from our context menu by selecting from here. And this nice little preview. And if we want a mirrored extent, we can hold the control key and then specify directly 12.7. The only thing with that robot or with that context menu is there was no feature for the thick option. So we do have to just open up our specification tree and then update what our thickness value wanted to be there. Then for this back face, as Darcy had, it's a little bit thicker at this portion, but we can grab the existing geometry and do a projection just for those edges and do another pad. So if we click it without holding control key, it will snap back to just a pad in a single direction. And then for the rib here in the center, the tool is actually called stiffener in CATIA. So same kind of approach, creating that 2D sketch of just the line. And we can do a coincident, make sure it's fully constrained, exit out, and the stiffener command. And it does the same, creates like the sketch as the neutral fiber as the option. And let's do 4. Then our front face. This one I don't have the sketch to copy over. I'll just kind of throw the lines, the geometry together. So here is 2.5, and then another line, and we can create an equal constraint for those two. So I just needed to grab that. I'll also throw in that offset while I'm here. 5.5. And then for the circle, so I had the benefit of just taking the solid model, so I'm directly creating that rather than Darcy that designed the whole thing. So I'm just getting directly what those end values ended up being. This one was 10.5. I think I included the unit there. And then the offset is 6.35. And to get this fully constrained, we can do symmetry. So grabbing those two corners and then that center element, and there is a fast symmetry constraint that'll position that in the center. Let's grab that out and pad. So it will do negative for the negative direction. This one, there is no point, like up to point, but we could do an up to plane, but then I'd have to create one. So I'll just do 2.5. That could be one example we could do in the future. But just like at the beginning, it didn't have an option for the thickness. So let me go through and update that so that it's only creating the thickness outside of that sketch rather than inside. Then from here, we wanted this back. Oops, too many shortcuts. We'll create a sketch and similar, creating the using existing geometry to generate our new sketch. Though this one is called Project 3D Elements, and these show up as yellow, and we can, using our profile tool, Let's throw 32, and blue will give us our automatic constraints. That's CATIA telling you, hey, okay, I will snap it to the direction you want me to. And this last bit, so if I hover my mouse correctly, I can grab right there, and then the coincidence. Exit out, and a combination, so the projected elements still stay yellow, but that still means they're fully constrained. And let's rotate you and move the bar over to -8.5. To mimic to do the rounding corners, our edge fillets, we can also control click to grab multiple of those edges and do the fillet command. This one also has that bar, so you can change it right from this view. Oh, why does it say 5? There we go. And so it is nice, it does wait until you left click. So if you notice on the cursor, there's a green check mark. So you can go through and modify that before you left click to set it. And with the chamfer, it's not on my context, but we can grab it down here at the bottom. And this one was 2. Then we can round out this part with the other edge fillets down here. 3 point. Oh, and here this one's just a display, so you can change that in preferences. It said 3.18, but if we check in the feature from the specification tree, it brings up the actual context menu or the window so that you can specify even more of those and double check that it got the right value there. For this one, we'll utilize the hole command and click on the side. And so I'm kind of combining a couple steps from Darcy's model, and we'll do, I said a counterboard since it had the 2 diameters there. This one will be, well, defaulted pretty large for here. Then this one will be 3.8 and 1.75. So it still has kind of the extra notch. We do preview, yeah, just like he had. To position the hole, there is a position sketch here. And there is the center point for the hole showing. We can grab, just like in SOLIDWORKS, grab the axis of this line, but you select the surface, and CATIA just knows when you do your value constraint, it kind of brings that out for you. So even though you selected a surface in the context of Sketcher and creating that value constraint, it's going to automatically assume you wanted that axis there. And so here was 20.32. And the other fun one is our symmetry. So we can put that center, that point in the center of this tab by clicking the outer 2 first, and then the center point of the hole. It's not in the context. You actually have to go, there's even more options for possible constraints on these elements. So if we do that, we have equidistant point. It's just the same as symmetry, except the center element is a point instead of any other, like a line. So this one is good for our hole. It moves slightly, so we can update the preview, but then we can click OK. There we go. And just the same, adding the chamfers. And that one is 0.25. And that one will be it for our slider or gripper. And I'm just going to change the color really quick so we can see the difference in the parts from our assembly. And before we move to the assembly, just going to do a quick run through of how we could have made some of the other parts. So let's do the rail. So in my other tab, here are preloaded parts that we'll use in the assembly, the leg indexer. And so with the rail, you can still do kind of the same approach. You have a pad or an extrude, you create the geometry over in the various pockets. And then you can also put multiple profiles, multiple geometries in the same sketch. So here, instead of doing one stiffener and mirroring it, of course, multiple ways to get the same geometry. You can also kind of create two profiles here and then make that the pad or extrude. Then I had the same kind of chamfers. One that I wanted to bring up was also the indexer, just showing a couple of the other tools that were available. So like the shaft command, you can create kind of your profile that you want rotated around. Oh, there we go. For the shaft, you can create those pockets, and instead of mirror, you can also do circular pattern. This one is our hole and chamfer on that side. We can create a mirror using multiple of those elements there, those part features. And then for that center piece, you can create a pad and then do kind of another circular pad or a circular pattern for that portion here. There we go. Let me round that out. And let's minimize you. So the leg, very similar approach, but let's get to assembling the parts together. So here in this tab, there is in the plus sign, we can do a product. So add a new product here. And that would be our assembly file. So this would be our gripper. And we can modify the screen a little bit. So a bunch of ways to input our new parts in this assembly. Let's make sure that's highlighted up at the top. But you can take the part, click and drag it over. Or if they're in other tabs, sometimes it gets a little finicky that way. So let's do insert existing part. And I can add the rail. Oh, I forgot to set it. There we go. Then I just I forgot to make sure that the top of the specification tree was highlighted before hitting, there we go, for insert our new part. So we can grab the rail there. And let's grab the other parts as well. So here's our indexer, and they all throw together in that same origin. So we can use this robot, this coordinate system that pops up when you import them. So it's not as direct in SolidWorks where you can click and drag the part. You do have to kind of use the robot, kind of move this around. Let's finish grabbing the leg and the servo. So this one. And let's get you kind of in the right orientation. So we can click and drag the orange axes lines. And this doesn't create any kind of constraints or relations for the parts. We're just moving them around on the screen so that it'll be easier to add those later. And the last one was the servo. So let's move you up and over. Oh, I should have went this way. Yeah, because it's closer to that side. So I'll just load these for now and do half of the assembly with respect to time. Let's do our fixed constraint first, so making sure that the rail stays fixed in space. And since we are in our assembly workbench, it was really that easy, just clicking on the face, and that was in that context menu, and it shows up in our specification tree. To add this servo, we can similar selections, grabbing those surfaces and adding our coincidence constraints. And notice it updates as we apply those. And let's apply this last one, our contact. And as we added those, it does form kind of our rigid connection since I specified it with those constraints. So if you're familiar with V5, all of those constraints are still there. They're just kind of nested within that overall connection. So there's our coincidences, everything that we created. So if you ever do need to modify the elements that were being connected, this is how you would kind of select and reselect a new one. And we'll just click OK for that warning. The next piece will be, so we can have that open actually. So instead of having it just autofill in our specification tree, if you want to keep track of everything, all those individual constraints that you're making, you can open it directly here and then add them piece by piece. So there's our coincidence for here to here. And it did move just because I selected that first. So it's like saying this piece is coincidence with that piece, but it's okay. Once we do update, it will go back to its original position. And then we can grab our offset value here of 0.25. And then the last piece, so another kind of thing to note about the difference, if you're more familiar with V5, is kinematics in V5. That's kind of combined together here in assembly. So we do have the ability to kind of classify that this angle is going to be the controlled piece. So this feature here, let's get the planes to make sure it shows the other option. This will be our, let me make sure I'm grabbing those planes. There we go. I was waiting for the other piece to show up. So we define this angle as the controlled, so this will be guiding everything, and then we can set our limits here. And I have this one as, I already checked it out, so it doesn't clash with each other. And we can click OK and hit update to bring that to the center. So our fix, our rigid, our revolute. Let's bring in the last couple. So this one is our coincidence from, grab that, part to part, and our offset here. And yes, for that check. One more. Let's grab the coincidence. And for this one, because CATIA is very particular on the degrees of freedom and making sure you're not redundant, we're just going to do parallelism for these two parts. Yeah, because, oh yes. So it won't update. It will get to the right location once I do the coincidence here. So this last piece will define the location. So now it's bringing it to the correct spot. We also want another parallel to make sure it's facing in the correct direction. And right now it sees this set of connections as cylindrical. So to get it a prismatic, we just need to define the plane. So we have our XY plane here, and then let's grab the XY plane from our rail. And notice as I created that, it updated that it's now a prismatic. Let's see if we grab that, the manipulation command, and we have with respect to constraints. We can at least simulate half of it. And notice it doesn't go past the limits that I defined from that revolute. It won't go any further. And to just jump ahead, doing the same setups that we did earlier, it should come up looking like this, where you can, let me make sure I'm at the right level. So with manipulate, the same deal. Let's grab that as our guiding. And then we have, the rotation here. And for the last, let me go back really quick. I forgot to show the symmetry for this one. So to get those other parts for your assembly, if you're just creating a duplicate, you can do from the tree, clean this up, you can do kind of a Control-C, Control-V, and then the robot comes up and you can move it over to where you need to. And for symmetry of a part, there is the same. So taking this, and there's our assembly symmetry. Our plane, let's say, is the, let me make sure I'm grabbing the rail and not the, there we go. So if we grab the symmetry, it'll create that with respect to that constraint. And this is a super nifty tool when you're dealing with sub-assemblies. So having multiple parts, you can choose, have a lot of options to that. But that's how you would have created the duplicate parts for there. And then let's round this out with the drawing. Let's first make sure this is in our ISO view. There we go. And I have the drawing template preloaded with the GoEngineer. And here are our different view types that we can import. Let's just stick with ISO right now and grab that view. So there's the preview, and then left click to set it. Our automatic balloons are down here at the bottom. So all of the different options down here. And then you can click and drag those around. And the last piece to make it similar is our bill of material. So we can set it, might take a hot minute, there we go, and place it. And from here, since it is on the cloud, you could, if you wanted to export that as PDF, it would be here under print, or sorry, let me show that menu. So there was this save, and you can specify if it's local or anything like that. And then any issues or specifications here. And I'm just going to overwrite that. And here is, there we go. And there's our drawing. So some nice quality on the vectors and all of that. And thank you for your patience on that. That was a bit quick. But if you do have any questions for either of us, here is our contact information directly. And here are all the Q codes for direct links if you want to sign up for our GoEngineer newsletter or look at any of the professional training courses that we offer. You can check out our YouTube channel as well as post in our GoEngineer community.